Welcome in Illinois in Focus daily with the Center Square and America's Talking Network. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you for being with us. And a lot to cover here from Milwaukee this morning and all week, as I've been heading over to the Fiserv Center in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention, and it continues today. Yesterday was a Republican breakfast, as they've been having every day for the Illinois delegation, discussing a variety of things concerning safety, but also voter outreach. And the breakfast was something that the Republicans gathered to hear from Lee Zeldin, and you could see from being there on the ground how they gathered for the breakfast and discussed a variety of things concerning how to build the party, how to reach out to non-established Republicans, independents, and even Democrats who may be a little frustrated with where their party is at. So the breakfast had Lee Zeldin as the keynote speaker. And he really he talked about a variety of things, including the importance of reaching out to those non-Republican Party people in order to build the base and to get out there, draw attention to the issues, and even more. And he got a standing ovation, encouraging people to build the party heading into November. And then afterwards, various Republicans held a gaggle with reporters, and among them was U.S. Congresswoman Mary Miller, who talked about migration being a key issue for Republicans, wanting to tackle illegal immigration.
How is illegal immigration a problem in your congressional district?
Illegal immigration is ridiculous. For one thing, we have immigration laws. Americans have every right to know who's coming in here and what their purpose is. And we are the land of opportunity. The whole world wants to come here. We aren't a perfect country, but we are the land of freedom and opportunity. And you look at the people that are waiting in line to come here legally. It's wrong. And just the crime that is involved, the people coming over the border, we know they're trafficking drugs, they're human trafficking, they're number one, breaking our laws. Terrorists are coming over the border. It's a dangerous time for our country. And I'm going to say it. I think it's treasonous of Joe Biden and his administration to open our borders and to violate our immigration laws.
So again, Mary Miller being asked a variety of questions, including why she doesn't do more media interviews, to which she said they're looking for fair coverage, saying that the corporate media doesn't necessarily give Republicans or Trump that level of fair coverage. But she continued talking about crime and migration being a major concern for Republicans, even outside of Chicago. Consider how much Illinois is spending on the non-citizens in the state. The budget has more than $1 billion in it for non-citizens to get health care, housing, even lawyers to help with their immigration situation and getting work permits and the like. So clearly, even outside of Chicago, taxpayers are paying for this. But the crime that's associated with it as well is something that Mary Miller pushed back against.
Crime is a big issue, and opening the border to people we don't know what their agenda is coming in here, to criminals and terrorists. And then this safety first, releasing criminals is ridiculous. The American people want safe communities, they want economic opportunities, and they want excellent education for their children, and the America First agenda delivers that. Thank you.
Yesterday at the Republican National Convention was a theme of Make America Safe Again. And we'll talk just briefly about some of the other things that were spoken about last night on the convention floor. But continuing with the Republicans from Illinois holding a media gaggle after yesterday's breakfast. Here is State Senator Terry Bryant. She was talking about the speeches on the floor the evening before, including having the head of the Teamsters Union address the Republicans, talking about having labor support. And Terry Bryant, she said that that's a great sign. And how does that translate into getting votes out?
Well, I think you translated in that the Republican Party is a party who appreciates middle class, appreciates workers, whether they are union or non-union workers. We want the middle class to have a wage that allows them to, as we said last night, we want Americans to be wealthy again. You get that wealth through working hard and with an honest wage, and I think we're going to be fully supporting that.
Corey Brooks, the rooftop pastor, who's been an outspoken, obviously, activist against violence in Chicago, is giving the benediction tonight.
Mm-hmm.
What symbolism do you see there, especially as it relates to Chicago?
Well, I think we saw last night in a lot of the speakers that were addressing the convention last night, this is a big tent party. And I think when you see African Americans, Latinos, when we see, I think we're going to see some other demographic groups that are going to be represented that I think America is going to see very clearly that the big tent party is here. We're strong, we're united. And honestly, someone like Corey Brooks speaking on the stage tonight should send a message that we are united in that message and we're united going forward.
And again, this is from yesterday, talking about the events leading up to Corey Brooks giving that benediction last night. But also it highlights the issue of yesterday's theme being public safety, make America safe again. And Terry Bryant, being a former official from the Illinois Department of Corrections, she talked about the perception of crime. While you may look at some of the Chicago police statistics and see that shootings are down since last year, or murders are down since last year, when you look at the year-by-year average, 2, 3 year, 4 year average, it gives you kind of a different perspective. But Bryant says that how people feel on the streets is crucial.
Are you suggesting they're
I'm suggesting they're cooking the books. And I would like to see what their data is, because perception is reality simply because you're the person who's living there. And when you have to sleep with a firearm next to your bed, or you have to walk around worried about whether you can safely walk on a street, the data cannot possibly be right. If it's not right in corrections, and I know for a fact they're cooking the books, they have to also be cooking the books in other areas as well. And you know it. Thank you.
And again, the theme yesterday being about public safety, but still a lot of reaction to the different voices that have been heard for Republicans here in Milwaukee, welcoming the likes of Amber Rose, a celebrity, former liberal, I guess, and now one of the major speakers this week in front of Republicans, talking about how she seems to have converted to being a Republican and supporting Donald Trump. Charlie Meyer, Republican state representative from downstate, he talked about the need for those types of votes, reaching out to independents, reaching out to undecideds, and making sure that they're welcomed in the Republican Party.
And we have to remember, just Republicans may not be enough to elect Donald Trump. We need independents. We need to open up. We need to tell the story of what he does for America and bring everybody on board. You go back to Ronald Reagan, a friend that votes with us 80% of the time is a friend. We should not attack them. We need to go out, work together.
Happening. Republicans,
we have to work together, and we have to bring it together. So we are willing to try. We're working. We want Donald Trump. And wouldn't it be an amazing thing if we could see Donald Trump actually help Illinois gain seats back? I am one of 40 out of 118. You want to try to run a bill in Springfield that's good for your district? That's not easy when you're one of 40. We work hard to bring in more members, recruit them. We understand that a Republican running up in the Collier County will stand on a little bit different platform than a Republican in Southern Illinois. We have to work together, build those coalitions, and see what we can do as a Republican Party.
Again, Charlie Meyer from downstate Illinois sharing his thoughts with the media gaggle. I then went back into the breakfast area and connected with Bob Fioretti. He is the Republican candidate for Cook County State's Attorney. He was at the breakfast yesterday, and I chatted with him briefly, and in particular, talked about what he plans on doing. He says he plans on supporting police. He plans on supporting victims and holding criminals accountable. But I asked about Cook County being a deep blue county. As a Republican, how does he plan on getting over that hurdle?
As people say that, but I'm working throughout all of the county, throughout all of the townships, the municipalities, and in the south and west side, the north side of the city. Nobody's going to be forgotten in terms of what's happening. And a lot of the crimes, a lot of the trauma that we see are in the black and brown communities. And I am there to stand for the people, to end the crime, to make sure that somebody speaks for them in the criminal justice system, the victims, and I will be that person.
And we also talked briefly about the no cash bail, part of the Safety Act, the Pretrial Fairness Act, essentially ending cash bail statewide. And saying that certain offenses, people can't be held behind bars. It does give discretion to judges, but again, it spells out which categories of crime are detainable and which categories of crime are not detainable. And Bob Fioretti, again, the Republican candidate for Cook County State's Attorney, talking about how he wants to give that discretion, full discretion, back to states' judges and determining whether or not somebody should be held.
As I've said before, I want to restore the discretion of the judges on how they can hold people and when to hold people. They should be able to look at their rap sheet, their history. Are they a flight risk? Are they harmed either to the victim or to the community? We need the judges to have discretion and not allow our legislature to decide otherwise, because we have thousands of cases that go through this system, and they each need to be evaluated with a judicial mind to make the right determination.
And Bob Fioretti, of course, facing a Democrat in that election, and we'll watch that closely as well, with a lot of concerns about public safety in Cook County. Then I headed over to the convention hall, where it's an interesting sight. And these are just some images of what it looks like outside of the convention hall. Heavy security, by the way. I mean, it's I had to take an Uber to drop me off blocks away from the perimeter so that I could walk up and get screened and get in. But clearly the Fiserv Forum, where they've got all of these displays set up, Make America Great Once Again, big banner there, as the temperature is not nearly what it was yesterday, but big Trump 2024 block letter that people are taking pictures by and having fun and getting ready to go inside for the convention, where that's a site from the convention hall without the delegates there. But I was also able to talk with Aaron Delmar. He is a Trump delegate and a Republican official here in Illinois. And he and I talked about the assassination attempt on President Trump from last weekend. We also talked about safety and a variety of other things. And here's that interview in full. From the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee for the Center Square, I'm Greg Bishop, and we're joined right now with Aaron Delmar, a delegate for Donald Trump from Illinois. Aaron, thanks for taking time with us here on the ground, and so far, a pretty eventful convention considering what happened on Saturday. If you could share your thoughts about the assassination attempt on Donald Trump and what it means for the political conversation moving forward.
Well, as I saw that unfold on television, I just happened to be watching CNN when it was happening. And it was a spectrum of different emotions that I was experiencing. The first one was shock, right? Oh my God, something's happened. Somebody's shooting. You could hear the pops go off. Then it was fear. What was happening to all of the people that were attending this rally and what was going to happen, and seeing Donald Trump go down, seeing security come out and try to protect him. Then it went to that pride, when seeing how quickly law enforcement got the whole scene under control, how Secret Service was prompt to act and remove the threat. then it turned to sadness, honestly, even though for the alleged shooter who lost his life on that night, and to the just regular person that wanted to go to a political rally with their kid that didn't make it home. That was incredibly heartbreaking. From there, it turned to anger. It said, hey, regardless if you like Donald Trump or don't like Donald Trump, this is an American. This is our nominee for president of the Republican Party, and that we are so polarized as a nation that we're so far away that people feel they need to take political violence into their own hands. And you know what? That was going to be a concern of like, hey, is this convention going to happen? Are we going to be going to Milwaukee? We've all made arrangements. We've got our hotels booked. But then when we got here on Sunday, we got our credentials. We started going through the opening party of the red, white, and blue. And we went to the whole security situation, the detail, and I saw the presence. I was a delegate in 2016, so I knew what I was really to expect. We've had 3 or 4 times the amount of personnel on the ground here. We have the drones, we have the helicopters, and as soon as we got through that security, and we hit that red carpet and saw all 50 flags. I went and found the Illinois flag. We took a picture with our delegation, and then the party started with Trace Atkins. Everybody felt safe, secure, and ready to go.
So when it comes to the political conversation, a lot of fingers being pointed back and forth, but how do you move forward? Is it going to be more focus on policy rather than personality?
I think that's really where the concentration should be. I think people should be looking at both of the candidates, comparing and contrasting each of their agendas, their vision for the next 4 years, and what have they done during their 4 years of term, because this is one of the unique times where we have 2 presidents that had 4-year terms, and was life better under one versus the other? There's a lot of material to work with and go through, and it should be based on policy, not personalities, and who we think can lead the United States for the next 4 years.
Now we've got today on Tuesday, the focus is public safety.
Right.
Talk a bit about where you see the failure of the Biden administration in keeping the United States safe, but also how that translates on the streets in Illinois.
Well, from a 2-part process of that, the first part is obviously going to be immigration. Right? If we don't have strong border control, we don't know what's coming across our borders. I'm not just talking about human beings that are seeking asylum or undocumented immigrants. We can't control our borders. We don't know what products or what items are coming through. So that's the number one concern. Could it be drugs, could it be guns, paraphernalia, human beings, as far as human trafficking. That's something we need to get under control. But more specifically, what's going on in Chicago? During the 4th of July weekend, we had 100 people got shot. Right? On that weekend, 100 people got shot. That's just not a place where we're creating an environment that's safe for people to live. And those policies that Joe Biden has had for 4 years are resonating in Chicago. Brandon Johnson and all of the Democratic leadership or failed leadership that's in the Chicago area has all endorsed the former or soon-to-be former president if we have our way. And those policies you have real actions and you have real examples of how they're failing the American people, specifically in Chicago.
Last night, the leader of the Teamsters Union spoke at a political convention and endorsed Donald Trump. Talk about the significance of that when it comes to on-the-ground politicking in a state like Illinois, which is dominated by Democrats, but also very union-heavy.
That was one of the things I was so excited to see. That was all the speakers. There's amazing speakers, but that's one I really wanted to pay close attention to because like he said yesterday, this is the first time in history that we've ever had the president of the Teamsters address the National Republican Convention. And I think that's important because I think that is showing that a lot of Democrats are deserting the party from the labor side, right? Organized labor is not what it used to be. I think that a lot more Republicans are softening up to it because they know that middle class depends on that labor. Republicans have always had a bad name of saying we're anti-labor. We're not. We're pro public labor when it comes to police, firemen, the military, all of those different groups. And now we're looking at the trades, like electricians, pipe fitters, plumbers. Those are blue-collar jobs that we want to keep here in the United States, and it's a major plank of the America First platform.
Aaron Delmar, a delegate for Donald Trump here at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Thank you so much for taking time with us here at the Center Square.
Thanks a lot, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate the live chat here letting me know that I was muted. Again, thanks to Aaron Delmar for joining me yesterday as we've got delegates we're talking with. But it wasn't just Illinois delegates I talked with. It was also the delegates of different states, and it's important to get perspectives from across the country. I chatted with Jim Walsh, a Trump delegate from Washington State. He's also a Republican official, and hearing from him the similarities really between Illinois. I know this is Illinois in Focus Daily, but getting that perspective from across the country with the center square, it's important to hear what other states are seeing in their politics. So Jim Walsh, a Republican delegate from Washington State, a party official from Washington State. We talked about Trump. We talked about the assassination attempt, the rhetoric, but also ballot initiatives, he said, in Washington State could actually lead to more Republicans or independents coming out in Washington State to vote in the November election. From the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee for the Center Square, I'm Greg Bishop, and we're joined by Jim Walsh, a delegate out of Washington State. Jim, thanks for taking time with us today. I definitely want to talk about your thoughts on the impacts of Trump being at the top of the ticket and what that means for the politics in Washington State. But talk about what happened Saturday when you saw the news. What was going through your head, especially moving forward as we get closer to the November election?
Well, dread. A lot of us who are on the right side of the political spectrum have been dreading this kind of thing for years. The rhetoric in the mainstream media and in the left political circles of hatred and vitriol toward Trump has been so intense. Many of us feared that someone was going to try to kill him. It's not the political activist class that we worry about there. They're not the risk. The risk is that the rhetoric of the political activist class will push someone who's mentally or emotionally unstable over the edge. The similar thing that happened 40 years ago was when an unstable person tried to kill Ronald Reagan. That shooter thought that by killing Reagan, he would somehow appeal to a movie actress. He had seen movies, and they kind of pushed him over the edge. I think in our media society today, it's not movies really that do that. It's the narratives on social media and that sometimes leach up into mainstream media of just bitter hatred, particularly toward Donald Trump. So we were relieved when it became clear pretty quickly that he would be okay. But then what we've been talking about among elected officials, I'm a state legislator in Olympia as well as the state party chair, we've been encouraging our equal numbers across the aisle to dial down their rhetoric about Trump. Stop saying that he's a fascist. Stop saying that he's a dictator. Stop saying that he's an existential threat to democracy. None of those things are true. And it's irresponsible, really, on the part of people like Bob Ferguson, our state's attorney general, who just days ago was using the existential threat to democracy about Donald Trump. And Trump has nothing to do with Ferguson's political ambitions. So it's a cheap and easy target for extreme leftists to use. So we're asking them to dial that down. Stop using that kind of rhetoric. As far as the ballot effects in November go, the presidential election is actually not the top of the ballot in Washington in November. The top of the general election ballot will be 4 initiatives that the people of Washington will be voting on. 3 of the 4 of them have to do with tax reforms. Particularly, one repeals our state's disastrous cap-and-trade tax scheme. 3 of them are about tax reforms, and one of them is a restoration of natural gas, which the far left has tried to ban and restrict in Washington State. So we expect that there's going to be a lot of turnout by people who want to reform our taxes, cut our state taxes, and restore natural gas as an energy choice for homes or businesses.
So with that being and that's Jim Walsh, a delegate from Washington State, and also a Republican legislator and party official out of Washington State, talking with him yesterday just about the political dynamic in Washington State. I also chatted with Charlie Giroux. He is a longtime Republican convention attendee going back 40 years. And somebody who helped strategize in the political space. He was a delegate from Pennsylvania, of course, the state where that attempted assassination of Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump took place. We chatted about the politics and also about the evolution of party conventions over the past 40 years. From the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, I'm Greg Bishop with the Center Square, and we're now joined by Charlie Giroux. He is a delegate from the state of Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. And Charlie, I want to talk about all of the times that you've spent at conventions like this. But obviously still fresh in people's minds what happened Saturday with the former president and the assassination attempt. He survived. A rally attendee did not. Reflect on that.
Well, obviously a very tragic moment in American history and a very poignant moment because, as you do in so many of these instances, you see the character of the attackee in those split seconds that occur right after the incident. And in Donald Trump's case, you saw a man of tremendous valor and courage, determination, and strength. And I believe that's what America's looking for right now.
Now, how does this change the political conversation? There's been a lot of heated rhetoric used, existential threat, somebody who's going to tear down democracy, dictator for a day, and even on the other side, the former president using some language that Democrats will point to and say that that's too heated. How do we address that moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, you never heard out of Donald Trump's mouth the words, "Let's put a bullseye on my opponent," but I believe that in both instances, you're going to see a tamping down of the rhetoric, at least for a little while, and hopefully for the rest of the campaign. You know, you talked about me being an old guy. I remember that Richard Nixon and Barry Goldwater were fixing to do a national campaign, or rather John Kennedy, I said Richard Nixon, John Kennedy and Barry Goldwater were fixing to do a national tour together, running for president, just to address the issues that faced the country. It would be great if we could get back to that.
So here at the convention, we had a big night last night with the president coming out, showing the bandaged ear, array of speakers. I want to touch on the Teamsters Union speaking last night. What does that signal for the Republicans moving into November? Is it a big tent? Is it getting bigger?
I think the presence of Sean O'Brien was huge. I really do. And it says a lot of different things. It says something very important about Donald Trump. He invited him. It says something about the Teamsters Union president. He accepted the invitation. First time in the history of the Republican National Convention that that's happened. And it does reflect the fact that you've got a much bigger tent in the Republican Party than you've ever had before, and it is growing. It's a much more populist party. You know, we grew up being told that, oh, the Democrats are the party, the working people, and the Republicans are the silk-stocking rich elites. Well, it's really flipped on its head, particularly in my state, where you see working Democrats who have been that all their life, now not only voting Republican, but registering Republican and big supporters of Donald Trump.
Charlie, you've been at many conventions before we...
You're not going to say how many.
Before we sat down, you had said you go way back, 40 years even. How much have conventions changed in that time span?
Well, it's interesting because you allude to the fact that I've been at a few. I've been at 13. This is my 13th convention. I started with Ronald Reagan in 1976 in Kansas City, which was the last contested Republican convention. And, of course, that was very, very, very different than what you have today, where everything is preset and really scripted and fine-tuned to the nth degree. A lot more excitement, but a lot more commotion in those days than today. Today, these are much more media productions than anything else.
And it's pretty incredible to see the media operations here.
Really
I've even heard people say there's more media than there are delegates.
Well, I believe that might be true.
That very well could be. Charlie, here finally talk about Pennsylvania, the politics of the state. what it means with Trump at the top of the ticket? Does that help down ballot?
There's no question that it helps down ballot. Republicans, to be very candid, don't generally win presidential elections in Pennsylvania. Donald Trump in 2016 won the state for the first time since George Bush in 1988. So that was a huge breakthrough for the Republicans and for President Trump in particular. I have believed, even before the debate debacle, even before the shooting, that President Trump would win Pennsylvania and would win it handily. I won't say by a landslide. I believe now it potentially is a landslide in Pennsylvania. He's going to do very, very well.
Charlie Jerome,
again,
thank you so much for taking time with us here from
Charlie,
the Republican National
Jerome,
Convention.
just some of the voices from the convention, and again, hearing from other states kind of helps put into perspective what the Republican National Convention is really all about. As we are here in Milwaukee at my bed and breakfast, and people pointing out to the clock. I don't know what time that clock even says, but it's not correct. So back at it to the convention today, and here's just some of the views from the convention floor. Interesting to see this, as we had a lot of people flooding in and taking to their seats and getting ready for the festivities. You can see media all over the place. The Illinois delegation there has a section. You've got even state senator, former state senator and former Republican gubernatorial candidate Darren Bailey as a Trump delegate, and the speeches on the stage very highly produced, and a lot of different themes being discussed, and a lot of music, a lot of dancing, delegates waving all kinds of different signs, and the spectacle of sorts of the convention. Fascinating to see it from the ground level as the various speeches took place. And last night, conventioners heard from Vivek Ramaswamy talking about the importance of millennials and Gen Z in politics. You also heard from Nikki Haley, who was an opponent of Trump in the primary, the last one to drop out. She endorsed Trump. You also heard from Ron DeSantis. And even some survivors of violent crime taking to the stage with impassioned speeches, showing that their ideas of the policies that the Biden administration has implemented are dangerous in their perspective. So a lot more to happen today as well at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. I'm Greg Bishop. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast as well, anywhere you get your podcasts, Illinois in Focus Daily. And we'll be back at it tomorrow here with the Center Square and Illinois in Focus Daily.